I'm sorry I'm a little late this morning. Uh, we slept in, but we only slept in about 20 minutes. Okay. Uh, I'm just back from the coffee shop. It's not raining yet, but it will be soon. Constance and I are going to have to do some Boxing Day early grocery shopping, and and I've got a lot of writing and stuff to do. It's just for someone that absolutely does nothing in life, uh, it seems that I'm always busy doing something. But anyway, happy Boxing Day. I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful Christmas if you celebrate Christmas. And if you don't, I hope you celebrate it vicariously by taking advantage of all the fun stuff to eat and people's goodwill. Uh, as we are approaching the new year, I'm preparing for the last class of the Monday Night Magic class series on the Thoth Tarot, and we'll be having our little graduation ceremony on Monday, along with the discussion of the final card, the Universe card, which is hardly something you can adequately cover in one class, but I'm trying to work on that. Plus, uh, I'm working on two other books. I have to go out into the living room and bundle up where it's warm with my computer on my lap to uh, work on two projects. It looks like I'll have a book coming out, two books coming out in 2025 and one in 2026 too. Let's hope people are allowed to read books in 2025 and 26. If so, it'll be a doozy. A couple of days ago, or perhaps even a week ago, I talked about memory and the importance of memory, not only in physics, but in the life of individuals and how important memory is. And I mentioned Crowley's uh, little essay called Liber Thasharb, which is Bereshit spelled backwards, uh, to, uh, to train the memory. And exactly 20 years ago, just this past November, I was asked to address uh, my Masonic brothers. I believe it was at someplace in New England. Forgive me, brothers, for forgetting the lodge, but I was invited to speak. And I've this is what I had to say about that. It's called ritual work, memory work, and the fear of death and public speaking. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but I wanted just uh, uh, read the first section because it adds a nice little epilogue to the discussion I had the other day about memory. I was raised to the sublime degree of Master Mason in 1998 uh, at the lodge that absorbed the lodge, that absorbed the lodge, that absorbed the lodge of my father's old lodge in Long Beach, California. I came to Masonry at the age of 50 after spending half of those years enmeshed in the studies, practices, and intrigues of esoteric orders whose names and reputations I'm sure are familiar to many of you. I wasn't seeking in Masonry the same sort of esoteric titillation that spiced one's initiatory adventures in these other, more secret societies. Nor had I had few expectations. I knew that from the beginning I was joining an organization of mostly elderly men with whom I would have little in common except the bonds of fidelity that for centuries have united the fraternity. I'm happy to say in these 20 years, Masonry's ranks are filling with younger individuals, men and women, uh, who are joining for at least one significant reason, uh, for the purpose of esoteric study. So things have, I think, the leaf blower is here. The Sacramento leaf blower is an insect uh, that is more or less unique to this part of the country. Large green, iridescent green wings, and they flap their wings to blow the leaves around. You believe that? Where was I? You can tell that I'm wandering. I'm digressing my digressions today. Uh, let's see. I knew I'd have little in common except the bonds of fidelity that united the fraternity. Uh, and I knew I was joining a group of men if they really got to know me, would most likely consider my interests too strange, my politics too subversive, and my morals too permissive, my books too weird, and my spiritual worldview downright heretical. Men who, for the most part, chose not to delve too deeply into the mysteries that lie in the symbols and ceremonies that they and those that came before them have so dutifully preserved. My expectations were low, and so I wasn't at all disappointed. I was welcomed into a lodge that boasted nearly 1,000 members, whose average age was 72. A lodge whose tiny library contained only a handful of books relating to the esoteric foundations of Masonry, none of which, according to the sign-out sheet, had ever been checked out. It really didn't bother me. As a matter of fact, it felt good. For the first time in many years, I was again the youngster in the group. I quickly grew to love and enjoy the company of my new brothers and came to the comfortable realization that Freemasonry was a very big tent. And that if I behaved myself, there was a place for me in that tent. So what if these guys could care less about the Eleusinian mysteries, the Sumerian magic, or the Kabbalah? So what if they said things like, "Oh, that doesn't mean anything, it's just symbolic"? I was just grateful for the fact that they and generations of others had preserved the craft, and that they were now delivering it safely to me across time, like a gift from unknown adepts of antiquity. On the evening I was raised, I found myself arrogantly wallowing in these narcissistic musings as I sat down to listen to a 78-year-old retired Navy admiral call me brother and deliver without a single memory lapse the long form of the master's lecture. I was not so much impressed by the words of the lecture as I was by the fact that this old salt could rattle them off without a hitch. Then I recalled at all three of my degree ceremonies, all the officers delivered their lines and played their parts perfectly. As the old boy continued his monumental lecture, I drifted hypnotized on the tedious waves of his monotone delivery and began to replay in my mind the landmarks events of the degree ceremonies. In other words, he was like recapping everything that had been done to me since the entered apprentice, the fellowcraft, and the lengthy and dramatic third degree. He was just, and as he was doing it, I was going through it all again in my brain. Because at the time you're doing it, at the time you're the candidate walking around and being pushed here and there and blindfolded and poked, and then of course all of the melted wax poured over the top of your head, and the oh, and the piranha. Okay, you don't know, it's not getting to you, but when you hear it again so soon after it happening to you, it goes deeper inside you. Okay. My eyes darted back and forth to the officers in the east, to the sideliners, to the secretary. They were all moving their lips. They all had it memorized. Every one of them. They're good. And then I sort of forgave the monotone delivery of the brother who was delivering the master's lecture. It didn't matter because all of them, like a familiar song, were all moving their lips. I felt like I was in that old Star Trek episode in which the crew found themselves on a planet where everybody was of the body. Your daddy can put him up, can't he? You here for a festival? Yeah? But I digress, yeah? I realized at that moment that most of these old coots knew the lecture by heart and could probably give it back in their sleep. In their sleep, I thought. Then I had a Masonic epiphany. Like all illuminations in my life, this realization came as a complete surprise and not at a moment that seemed timed by the gods to administer to me the maximum dose of ego-crunching chastisement. In a lightning flash, my patronizing esoteric smugness was turned to ashes. I realized for the first time what was for these guys the master's work. That the underlining formula, the esoteric transformational magic of Masonry, was not to be found so much in the traditions or symbols or lectures or what was said or done during the ceremonies per se. No. Important as all of those things are, they're only aspects of the craft that attract and enlighten only a handful of men in the big tent of Masonry. The fundamental mystery is much more personal, much more profound and universal. It is found in the initiatory method itself, and if mastered, can provide even the most unmystically inclined the key to overcoming death. death and public speaking. I've titled this morning's talk, Ritual Work, Memory Work, and the Fear of Death and Public Speaking. I know that sounds a little goofy, and I do get goofy from time to time, but in this case, I'm being pretty serious. Deadly serious, in fact. We are told that death is an important subject of meditation for Masons. Surveys show that many people fear something even more than death: public speaking. This would suggest, at least on the subjective level, that people who overcome the fear of public speaking have a leg up on also overcoming the fear of death. Masonry requires each of her initiates to overcome the dread demon of public speaking. As officers, we're required to deliver our lines before a knowledgeable and ruthless audience. Men who grimace and shake their heads in exaggerated disappointment each time we flub a word or forget a section. Even if we never choose to be a ritual officer, we're still required, before we're allowed to pass to the next degree, to give back in front of the assembled brethren the carefully memorized words, steps, signs, tokens of our degree proficiencies. The only escape from this terror is to be letter perfect and proud of it. And oh, doesn't it feel so good when it's over? Perhaps death is like that. It feels so good when it's over. I go on and talk about the Egyptian Book of the Dead and the fact that phases of the death coma are memorized to allow part of the brain and part of the mind to keep occupied during the death coma, in a sense, creating little escape pods for the center of your consciousness, for yourself, if you will, to move out of grosser frequencies of consciousness into subtler ones, and the key to that is a constant memorized line of chatter that says, okay, I'm moving to another door now. Oh, and there's the guardian at the door, and I got his name, and I know the color of his socks, and I know the secret word to get through. And as you're doing it, where other people, as they're dying, okay, under ideal circumstances, are just allowing themselves to meld back into the energy matrix, or at least that's the part of the theory behind the technology of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. That's it for today. Okay, Constance and I got to get on with our day, and thank you for allowing me to 7 days a week practice my overcome my fear of public speaking, and join you every morning. So enjoy your time here between Christmas and New Year's. I just have a feeling that 2025 will be a very different year for all of us, and I hope that we can stay together and and take comfort and strength from each other, and get through this year and make it a better year than last year, hopefully. Until then, till tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. Thanks for the memories.